My name is Alex, and I'm 20 years old. What I'm about to share with you still haunts me, and sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be the same again. It all started last fall when our college organized a weekend trip to a remote cabin in the mountains. It was supposed to be a break from the stress of exams, a time to relax, bond with friends, and enjoy the great outdoors. I was excited, as were the rest of my classmates. We packed our bags, loaded into a rented van, and headed out on what we thought would be a fun adventure. The drive up the mountain was beautiful. The trees were just starting to turn, and the air was crisp. We laughed, played music, and talked about all the things we planned to do. Hiking, a campfire, maybe even some late-night ghost stories. But as we climbed higher, the roads became narrower, and the forest seemed to close in around us. The mood in the van shifted. We all felt it, though no one said anything. We finally reached the cabin just before sunset. It was older than I expected, much older. The wood was weathered, and the windows were clouded with dust. Still, it had a certain charm, and we quickly settled in, choosing our rooms and unpacking. That night, we gathered around the fireplace, sharing stories and roasting marshmallows. But as the fire burned low, a strange unease settled over us. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, and I wasn't alone. My friend Jake, who's usually the life of the party, was quiet, staring into the flames as if lost in thought. Around midnight, we decided to call it a night. I had trouble falling asleep, my mind racing with thoughts I couldn't quite pin down. The wind howled outside, and the old cabin creaked and groaned as if it were alive. At some point, I must have drifted off because the next thing I knew, I was jolted awake by a loud bang. I sat up, heart pounding, and listened. The cabin was silent, save for the wind and the faint rustle of leaves. I told myself it was just the wind, but then I heard it again, a low, steady thumping coming from downstairs. I climbed out of bed and crept down the hallway, the old wooden floorboards creaking beneath my feet. I could hear my friends breathing softly in their rooms as I passed by, which made the noise even more unsettling. Reaching the top of the stairs, I hesitated. The thumping had stopped, but now there was something else. A faint scratching sound, like nails on wood. I slowly descended the stairs, my heart in my throat. The living room was dark, the dying embers in the fireplace casting eerie shadows on the walls. I scanned the room, my eyes adjusting to the darkness, and that's when I saw it. A figure standing by the front door, barely visible in the dim light. It was a man, or at least it looked like a man, dressed in tattered clothes, his face obscured by the shadows. He was standing unnaturally still, his head slightly tilted as if he were listening for something. I froze, unable to move or even breathe. Every instinct told me to run, but I was rooted to the spot. After what felt like an eternity, the figure slowly turned his head toward me. I caught a glimpse of his face, gaunt, pale, with hollow eyes that seemed to bore into my soul. Then, without a sound, he turned and walked out the door, closing it softly behind him. I stood there, trembling, trying to make sense of what I'd just seen. Had I been dreaming, hallucinating? But the door was still slightly ajar, and the cold night air was seeping in. I rushed back upstairs and shook Jake awake. At first, he was annoyed, but when he saw the look on my face, he knew something was wrong. I told him what I'd seen, and to my surprise, he didn't laugh or brush it off. Instead, he grabbed a flashlight, and we both went back downstairs to investigate. The front door was wide open when we got there, swinging gently on its hinges. We stepped outside, our breath visible in the chilly air, but there was no sign of anyone. The forest was silent, the trees standing like dark sentinels under the moonlight. We checked the area around the cabin, but there were no footprints, no signs that anyone had been there. Jake suggested we lock the door and try to get some sleep, but I could tell he was as shaken as I was. The next morning, I told the rest of the group what had happened. Some of them were skeptical, but a few admitted that they'd heard strange noises during the night as well. We decided to cut the trip short and head back to campus, but the unease lingered. I haven't been able to get that figure out of my mind. Who was he? What did he want? And why did he appear to me? Every night since then, I've had the same nightmare. I'm back in that cabin, and he's standing at the foot of my bed, watching me with those hollow eyes. I don't know if I'll ever go on another trip like that again. The mountains, the woods, they don't feel the same to me anymore. And sometimes, late at night, I think I hear that same thumping sound outside my window, and I wonder if he's found me again. All I can say is, if you ever find yourself in a remote cabin, trust your instincts. Some places hold secrets that are better left undisturbed.